Okay, everybody, welcome back to Decide to Dominate. I'm your host, Michael Weatherly, my co-host, DJ Dozier. And today we've got a very special guest, our first ever female guest on the show. So that alone is pretty exciting. This is Miss Jen Burdis. She is a certified trainer, Penn State alum, two-time Ninja Warrior, has an amazing book, which I'm sure we'll get to. We see it up in the window up there, EduNinja. Anything with ninja, it's got to be cool. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know.
There you go.
You have a master's in education, certified trainer. I mean, I know there's so much that we want to get to, but at the end of the day, thank you for being on the show with us today.
I'm absolutely honored. I'm here to learn from you, and I'm excited to see who else is going to see this, because everyone that listens to you guys, they've already decided to dominate, right? So
That's awesome.
That's good. Nice plug.
And everyone else who interacts with your show.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being on. DJ, you want to kick it off? I know you probably got a lot of questions.
Yeah, so Mike, just like you, Jen is a former teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to find out. I mean, she's done a lot in her life. She was a great athlete, obviously. And by the way,
national championship. By the way, didn't even get there.
Yeah, we
volleyball,
gotta get
all
there.
The things.
Yeah, we've definitely got to get there.
Okay.
But even when she was a kid, she played baseball.
Okay.
Baseball.
Okay.
But wait a second. Not just play baseball, like your son, all-star.
All-star. Okay. All-star baseball player. What position?
You know what? I played second base and a little bit of third base. I actually found my glove in the garage today, if you can believe it.
You're kidding me.
Oh,
Take that glove out.
And
Look at that. Yeah, that's not some wear and tear, buddy. All right. Oh, Wilson. Got your name on there? Sweet.
You know, so second base in Little League. I played for 2 years and was honored to be the first female all-star in our little town of Orwigsburg, Pennsylvania.
Wow. Wow. So you're born and raised in Pennsylvania, obviously went to Penn State. Talk a little bit about that journey and kind of what led you there and with the whole volleyball career, because I know there were some twists and turns just learning from DJ a little bit. But would love to hear kind of how you got there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the rural Appalachian Mountains, just playing in the woods, just simple, playing with the kids in the neighborhood. And I went to a tiny school and had the opportunity, because sports were so big into my life, that when I went to learn how to play volleyball and basketball, our school didn't have a gymnasium in 5th through 8th grade. So we played out in the playground, and my volleyball coach, who was also my basketball coach, just rolled out those volleyball nets with those tire bases. Yep. And we just played out there on the playground. And that's how I learned how to play volleyball, was from Coach Steve Kulik, and basketball as well. So I think that just provided this foundation, because with my schooling, despite being a teacher, I had undiagnosed dyslexia growing up. So, I was really struggling in the classroom. I wasn't quite sure why, but just always trying my best and just filling out the workbook pages. But sports was my go-to. That's where I felt the best and just had that great camaraderie with teammates in all my team sports. So continued playing sports and got up to high school and still wasn't able to read. I was reading at about a 2nd grade reading level, but went on as a multi-sport athlete to play volleyball, basketball, track and field. I gave up the baseball for track and field, so got to do some javelin, some sprinting, as many events as I could. And so was just, really just being the athlete, and trying my best in the classroom, still struggling. And all of a sudden, I went to a volleyball camp up at Penn State, and Coach Rose saw me up there. And, I'm 5'1", so I'm not your traditional volleyball player. I was an athlete, but didn't have the skills. I was just playing in just small clubs, not big clubs. I didn't specialize in one sport. So he saw me at camp and said, "Hey, you want to play volleyball at Penn State?" And I thought, are you kidding? Is this a rhetorical question? Because back at home, my mom and dad had Penn State wallpaper all in the house, like a Penn State lamp hanging above the kitchen table, and I'd seen a few volleyball games growing up, and of course, football games, right? Speaking of football, DJ he's who I wanted to be as a kid growing up, right? So looking at athletes, there weren't a lot of female athletes on TV, right? So I'd sit in the living room with my dad, and we'd spend our Saturdays watching football, and I'd be like, I want to be like him. Look at how he can run. Like that's who I want to be like, So in my middle school years, thank you for being like a role model for athletes, everywhere. So, when I got to college and Russ asked if I wanted to play at Penn State, I was like, you better believe it, right? So I came back and was doing the best I could at school, but with my dyslexia, ended up not passing my senior year of high school, right?
Wow.
Like I did, even today, if I go to type in passwords, it could be as simple as a zip code or my phone number if I have to go somewhere. And I'd say about 50% of the time I get it wrong, even just really, really slowly trying to get it right. And, so in high school, ended up flunking high school English because I couldn't spell the vocab words right on the weekly SAT, prep class. And so I had to go to summer school before I could get up to Penn State. And then, of course, when I got up to Penn State, I mean, it was nice that Russ invited me because I was an athlete, but I didn't have the skills those girls did. I was terrible, like absolutely terrible. It was so humbling and such an experience for me to grit and to overcome, because I would get kicked out of drills. No one would want to be my pepper partner. Like, they would just like have me go off. I'd have to stay home for all the game. The girls were traveling to Hawaii and all these cool places. And I'd be back in state college, which wasn't a bad thing, but wasn't as cool as Hawaii either. Right. So boy, was that humbling to, sit the bench and not even get in the drills, but just keep going after it and trying to trust the process, that whatever Russ saw in me as this potential as an athlete, to try to learn this game of volleyball and, compete and help my team in any way I could. So when I first sat down with him, the first meeting we had, he said, I've got 2 expectations for you. Okay. And he said, 1, it's you win every sprinting drill from now till when you graduate. I was like, okay, I think that's attainable, right? And then 2, that you make all academic honors. I was like, whoa, that one, I don't know about that one, right? So I went home, talked to my college roommate and said, hey, you're super smart. Did Russ have that expectation for you? And she's like, no, that wasn't one of mine. And I'm like, okay, these are my 2 jobs. This is what's expected and tasked of me. He set the bar higher for me. So I've got to do it. This is why I'm here, is to help my team. And this is my role. And I went to every study hall and just would take notes and highlight them, and just like found all these other ways, to be able to succeed in the classroom. And I was able to make those all academic honors every year, because he set that standard. I knew that was the goal, and I knew I just had to find a way, right? It might not have been the traditional way that other people would have learned, but after class, I'd have to go meet with students and talk it through and just hear it, so I still, by the end of college, wasn't able to read a single book. Like I was never diagnosed, couldn't figure out why my reading wasn't where other people's was. But I got my degree. I did well in my classes, and then moved out to California to become a school teacher, of all things, right? Where you need a lot of reading, you need a lot of writing. And, gratefully, I was at a very good school where we were under the Columbia University program. So those professors and teachers were coming to teach the teachers how to teach the students better. And then, believe it or not, I was working on 2 master's degrees in reading and writing curriculum. And then that's when I finally was able to teach myself how to use those tools to read. And that's at like 23 years old is when I honestly started reading books and helping students, become readers and writers themselves. Yeah. So
crazy story. I mean, and now the fact that you're an author of a book, I mean, talking about how far you've come from where you are, I think, we have a lot of special guests on the show, and they're all unique in their own way, but I think there's a lot to be said about the challenges we grow up with as children, and then kind of what it turns you into as an adult.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know DJ and I have this conversation all the time, but I think you're just more proof of that. I mean, all these challenges, you turn them into strengths at the end of the day, which I think is a lot to be said about you and you in particular.
Yeah, I mean, Jen, talk about like growing up with dyslexia, even though you didn't know what it was.
Right.
Now looking back, I
Mhm.
mean, what that did for you in terms of a positive, like what's the positive spin on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it took me a long time to really find the positive, right? In retrospect and look back, because everything was so tough. And it has only helped me, to become better and stronger and have more empathy for people, who are overcoming different things in their lives. But the struggles growing up, it just gave me that determination, just like when I was a kid playing baseball, or 5'1" trying to play volleyball or basketball, I just think it was just another avenue for me to find a way to succeed, and even in college, after 3 years of sitting the bench, that spring season when I was getting ready to do my student teaching, I quit volleyball. I quit. I'm like, I'm done. And, I just don't think I can sit the bench anymore. I've been trying my hardest. I put a good 3 years in. I redshirted my freshman year. And, thank goodness for Russ Rose again, being that mentor to be like, why don't you think about coming back? And all spring season leading up to the fall, he would send messages home with my college roommate, say, hey, my nickname is Bird. He'd say, why doesn't Bird come back? She should come back and try out again. To come and be a part of the team again. And he gave me that opportunity, and I snatched it up. And, without that opportunity, I honestly think today I would have felt more like a loser. I think today there might have been other areas in my life when I would have been able to step up, but because of that opportunity and grasping it and playing another 2 years and fighting for a starting position, as a back row player, and then getting to play in a national championship game. We lost to Stanford, but those last 2 seasons that I played, and then the girls the year after won their first national championship, was priceless in feeling like I was successful and I could overcome. And I think sometimes now, with students being able to change schools so quickly, if they have to just sit for just a little bit, right? Not be the starter or not work through that, I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to work for 3 years and not get what I wanted, right? And, but still have the opportunity to overcome and get to a place where now it's a point of reference. So, I'm like, hey, I did this for 3 years. I wanted to quit. I did. I had someone to say, no, you can do this. And I stepped back up there and did what I needed to do. That's what deciding to dominate means, right? Like,
Absolutely.
It's your teammates and the people around you be better. And without that opportunity, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, man, so many questions to ask. It's funny you bring up. I think we talked to TJ or somebody about this in the past, but it's going to be interesting over the next few years with like the transfer portal and NIL and all this thing, just to look at the data, because I feel like there's a lot to be said with like a core group of athletes that stays together for a few years and kind of get through those trials and tribulations. I mean, it sounds like you needed that one extra year that you had, because your junior year you went in the national championship and lost, but then senior year came back and won. So just like the things you learn as a group coming together. But if you're switching coaches and players every year, it's kind of hard to get that like congruency, that stickiness as a team. Yes. And I feel like that's something that both of you experience, and obviously me too, playing college sports, like being with the same group of people that I still call my friends today that you clearly keep in touch with. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious, Jen. So your era, I mean, obviously when Coach Ross was there was a time period when they didn't lose. Like I think it was like 2 or 3 seasons in a row. So where did you fit? And the reason I'm asking that is because even if you're not in that era somewhere, I mean, the fact that all the challenges that you had, mm-hmm. and to be 5'1", mm-hmm. and be asked by the one of the best coaches in America in terms of women's volleyball to come back. I mean, to join the team, number one, then to come back. at 5'1", I mean, you obviously had a serious level of athletic ability. But what was your time like in terms of the team? Where you said you all lost to Stanford in the championship, but you weren't part of any of the championship teams?
No. So leading up, it was right when Penn State entered the Big Ten. It was right before I got there. And then while I was there, our team was amazing. So I'm so honored to just be a small part of that, because they won 3 Big Ten championships while I was there. And that was paving the way to that, that Stanford year where we just lost either that game or one other one the whole season. We had played Stanford a couple times before. I think Carrie, had her shoulder surgery, so she was out. And so that final year, that final game, that's why I came back that red shirt, senior year, was to just go for it, to go for that national championship. And that was the expectation all year. And, Russ has always done a great job of talking about the past players and how they got you to where you are. Like, he would humble us so much in that, hey, this program has been here a long time. These players before you have paved the way for you, and you're helping to pave the way for the future players. And he just really did a nice job of showing that legacy. And we knew that was our job that year, was just to, compete and to win to our best ability and play our hearts out, play hard and have fun. That at the end of every scouting report, that's what it would say at the bottom. And that's the way he lived his life. And with all of the women he's coached over those years, it's just a life mantra, to play hard and to have fun. So the year after is when Penn State won their first national championship. And then they went on to win so many more after.
So being a part of a program like that, I mean, obviously, from the beginning in your youth, even, you were a great athlete. So you were accustomed to winning. You're accustomed to being in the limelight, so to speak, right? And being at the top level of your sport, whatever you participated in. So when you became a teacher, how did you sort of turn the table and help your students, or any mentoree out there? How did you transfer your attitude to them?
Yeah, even with the fitness training too. I mean, obviously with your work now, you do, like, we always talk about like athletes in the office, and this is an example of that.
Yeah. Well, at school, I just felt like it was such a sedentary environment, but we talk a lot. I think a lot of athletes is that transition. What do you do when you're done playing? It's just a lot of, I'm sure, people in the military and in organized sports, you're so used to this discipline and this high level of competition. And then if you're not competing, like, what now? Right? Like, what now? So I think that's what I was looking at, when I moved to California, was I was still competing in sports. I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 25 years ago. That was the thing that I jumped into right after volleyball, because I'd spent so many years in volleyball, and someone said, why don't you try Jiu-Jitsu? And it was, an awesome opportunity to just get in there and start grappling, because, not a lot of people were doing it back then. A lot of people I know who own gyms today, they were blue belts just like me, back in San Diego, just getting their feet into Jiu-Jitsu. So it was neat to be able to bring to the students in the classroom, like, hey, your sports career doesn't have to finish. Even if you're not playing professionally, you can still compete and be healthy and have this a part of your lifestyle, and still set expectations for yourself to be the best that you can be. Because for me, it helped with my schooling so much. It wasn't just my academics inside the classroom that made me successful, because as a matter of fact, I felt like it was more what I was doing outside the classroom. So I was trying to bring that into the students all the time with the mindset and everything Coach Rose had taught me. And then the sports that I was doing, because, after jiu-jitsu, I tore up my shoulder doing that, and was out for a bit with some shoulder surgery while they reconstructed it. And then I was just staying fit. And then a few people had said, why don't you do American Ninja Warrior? And So that was an awesome opportunity for the students and a great platform to introduce fitness and wellness and literally overcoming obstacles physically, mentally, in the classroom, outside the classroom, your entire life. Like, what a great platform to bring that all together and help those kids overcome whatever they were trying to overcome at the time. So that was amazing. 2 years on that TV show and the real training you had to do, much harder than preseasons at Penn State, which were terrible.
I bet you wouldn't see me swinging from rings.
Look, if I learned anything from this call is if I get in a brawl, you're my number one pick. Okay, 501 Spark Plug. Clearly, you're fit. Ninja Warrior, like jujitsu. Like, yeah, you're my number one pick if I get in a fight.
Yeah, and this is a guy that lives near most Navy SEALs in the area, so that's a pretty good compliment.
Look, hey, we're switching to because we definitely want to get to Ninja Warrior and the book and all that. But before we do, and we're transitioning away from Penn State, I got a little surprise for DJ. So every show we do, I wear a different hat.
Uh-oh.
And I brought this hat today for both of y'all. So I brought this one today. So Rob, on this call. So as we switch from Penn State and now talk about the Warrior conversation. So you talk a little bit about it. How did that come to be? Did you reach out? They reach out? Like, I'm sure you went through some kind of competition. Like, how did all that happen?
No, so I was back at a gym back in my hometown, and one of the Penn State alum was there at the gym, and he said, what are you training for? He's like, you should go on that TV show that's on TV. And, I thought that's the one he meant. And then sure enough, I come back a month later, a couple weeks, up to Penn State for an alumni event, and we were playing volleyball. And as a defensive specialist, your job is just to dive and roll after volleyballs, right? So one of the girls said, "Hey, you should be on that TV show, American Ninja Warrior. My sons love it." I was like, two people said that, I should do it. So I went back. As soon as I got off the airplane, I filmed a video and had a few students on the video as well with their parent permission and submitted it. And not only 2 weeks later, they called me up while I was in my classroom and said, "Congratulations, get ready for filming. You're going to come up to be on season 6 of American Ninja Warrior."
Wow. Now, how did you balance all that with work? And that's a lot.
It was, and I think that it honestly goes back to when my dad in college had me work a third shift job while I was playing volleyball. That summer I still had to train volleyball. I had to take a class. So I would go to work at 11 at night to 7 in the morning, wow. Just conveyor belt of taking these envelopes, rubber banding it this way, putting it in a box, all night long. You get your little lunch break, midnight, and then, keep going. And then at 8 a.m., I had a speech comm class because I was so shy, so the fact that I was short, the fact that I'm shy and a speaker now, it's just trying to overcome those things. So I didn't want to take the speech class up at Penn State because I didn't want to talk in front of too many people. So I the branch campus right after that third shift. So from 8 a.m. to noon, I would go sit in the classroom, sometimes falling asleep a little bit, a little tired. Then I'd come home and take a nap. I'd have to get my workout in for volleyball and then just do it all over for one full summer. And
I always say all the time, everybody's got the same 24 hours. It's how you use them. And clearly you're productive in how you use those hours.
Yeah. And so if my dad didn't set that up for me, he's like, "Hey, look at the people who are doing this job. And not that it's a bad thing, but if you don't graduate college and if you don't have other things in place, this is what your life might look like." Mm-hmm. I was like, "Oh, okay." Dad, I hear you. And so anytime that I look at my day, I just think back to that. And I'm like, another point of reference. If I could do it that summer, I could do it with anything. And so when I was teaching, I'd wake up around 4 a.m., 4:30. I would hit the gym before, and Ninja Warrior, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's pretty specialized. Mm-hmm. So, you just can't go out and run. You just can't, you've got to be doing parkour. So you can't just run. You got to run off walls and you got to practice jumping off precision jumps and, when to slow down and so those are skills you also have to learn, but you have to have the endurance and explosiveness. So you also have to do the strength and conditioning. Then you need the grip strength. So you got to do all the rock climbing. And so it was honestly a full-time job for something that you may or may not have gotten selected for.
Right.
Incredible.
Before and after school, I was training. And then in school, I was helping the students. So we would sit on stability balls. So instead of sitting on a chair, so after every subject, we would do a mini 1 minute, 2 minute workout routine, throughout the day, just to keep the brain stimulated and physically, to keep them engaged. And it helped with classroom management so much. It helped with their engagement. And so I was just helping other teachers in our school and other schools see the benefits of that for themselves as a teacher, and then for their students as well.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of how you blended fun and work, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to stimulate students in a different way. I think that's super interesting. You're right. Like at school, you're always sedentary, you're sitting down. So being able to like help engage the mind in a different way, I think is pretty neat. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask, like, so your students, obviously some of them, if not all of them, saw you on television
Yeah,
at
I
some
mean,
point.
crazy.
So
Be like, that's my teacher right there.
right. So were you known as a celebrity in the classroom and in the hallway?
Yeah, like you're giving autographs. I mean, you had to have been, right?
Yeah, I mean, my book, the EduNinja Mindset, 11 Habits for Building a Stronger Mind and Body. So EduNinja, I mean, that's what it was. Edu for education, and then Ninja for Ninja Warrior. So I was that ninja teacher, that EduNinja, that the students may or may not have wanted, each year. But I feel like they loved it. I mean, it was really, and everyone would ask me, like other teachers and things, they'd say, what, you have them doing push-ups? Do they want to do that? And they're
Right.
yeah,
We can still get away with that these days, right? Like, I'm gonna need a note. I can see the kids I can see the kids like when they get their, like their listing for next year, like, oh, I got Miss Jen, and other ones are probably like, oh, I got Miss Jen. Oh man, I'm gonna be having to do some push-ups.
yeah.
That's funny.
Great opportunity just to be able to impact people throughout the country too, not just even in our school, but other superintendents, getting to go speak to their school districts. It was a nice opportunity.
So we know you're a motivational speaker now. You've obviously got the fitness thing going on. Like, talk about like present day. I mean, you've done all these amazing things. Like, what are you doing right now? And oh, by the way, a plug for you. If people want to get the book, can they get it on your website or Amazon? Like, where do they go to get the book?
You got it. Yeah, my website, jenburdis.com, and then also Amazon. You can get this, the EduNinja Mindset, 11 Habits for Building a Stronger Mind and Body. So I have been speaking to schools, but more so personal training. I mean, I do every workout with everyone throughout the entire day. So right before the pandemic is when I shifted from teaching in the classroom to full-time personal training. And right when the pandemic hit, that's when everyone started reaching out to me because they're like, Jen, our gym closed down. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to work out. And they knew I was a Ninja Warrior and I would do workouts from home. So I do a lot of body.
Are you doing like one-on-one, kind of like this, like in almost like a Zoom or something?
Yeah, so I did a small group and then one-on-one. So I have about 7 a day, so
Wow.
Today I'll have 7 workouts, and it depends who I'm training at the time. If I've got, a professional football player, if I've got these other people, I sometimes eat 7,000 calories a day.
I mean, I'm apologizing for us right now. I feel like we should have had this like standing up and doing some stuff, not just sitting down doing this interview. Making me feel fat. She's doing 7 trainings a day.
There's a reason why I'm wearing a long sleeve.
Right, I got my coat
I'm looking
on.
at those guns over there.
I know. I'm saying. Okay, so this kind of reminds me a little bit of the call we have with Scott Bradley, who DJ played with in the minor leagues. He played in Major League Baseball. He gets up in like, what was it, 1, 2 or something? And he works out for like 7 hours before anybody wakes up. I mean, you work out 7 times a day. Walk us just through like a normal day of your life. Like, what time do you get up? You eat 7,000 calories a day. Like, just walk us through a normal day.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as eating goes, I'll wake up and I'll have, a big protein shake, or waffles. Okay, so I'll make a batch. The waffles are like the size of your head, the big Belgian waffles.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'll make a batch of them, makes 3 of those, and I'll have those throughout the morning. So I'll have I have 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, and then snacks in between. So the waffles, if I have them for breakfast, they get eaten by my second breakfast. And then the rest of the day, it's just, smoothies. And I'd say 85%, 90% of the time, it's clean foods. It's just the volume that I need just to sustain my training. So I'm up, it could be when I was in California, I was up by 4 a.m. and I would go out to the park and I would train a few clients. Then I would come back in, and usually they were the ones that were heading off to work. So you would hit those go-getters who want to be up early, get their workout in. And, we're doing everything from burpees to body weight stuff to holding mitts for boxing, so, it's awesome to be able to work with that group. And then you hit your mid-morning and I'm Zooming one after the other. I stack them 1 hour segments, and I've got clients that are up to 89 years old. I've got clients that, the one client, she does 45 minutes on the ground. We have her in ankle weights and hand weights doing bird dogs and all these core exercises. I put her up against so many people with her core, and she is solid. Then I've got other clients who are in their 80s and they're hitting mitts. So I have two females that are, hitting mitts, because we do it on Zoom, and then it's cool because they're friends. So, you have one on this side of the country, another one, and they get to meet virtually with me 5 days a week, hitting, boxing combinations. And then when we meet in person, you get to physically hit the mitts. So then you go throughout your day. I've got just a range of clients, and, it's been fun. Everyone from East Coast to West Coast. So last night I finished at 9 p.m. at night.
I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna hit the pool or something. After this call. I'm canceling all my meetings. I'm done. You making me feel slag, dude.
I got a few push-ups in this morning.
We need to get down and do something right now. That's all I'm saying. Look, okay, so we're kind of running short on time. We're getting there. Let's talk about you're back in Pennsylvania now. You were in California, and you're doing some stuff with the school again, kind of back to Penn State, right? Or with females in general in Pennsylvania. Can you talk a little bit about that? DJ had mentioned something.
Yeah, so Charmone up at Penn State is working with Teammates for Life. So basically, it's a women's initiative, just like the other sports teams have, to connect female athletes in all of the sports and all of their alumni. So they're just getting that off the ground right now. So it's been amazing to get back there over the holiday. I think Thanksgiving when I was back up there, speaking to all the athletes on campus that are becoming a part of that. So it's great to be able to be a part of that initiative as it's just being introduced this year.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And like how can is there like sponsor opportunities for folks in like the community, or like how do people get engaged, I guess, with that kind of organization? Because obviously, the men's has kind of been up and running, the Letterman Club and everything.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're just getting it off the ground this year. So I think they're just assigning positions and figuring out how to get the community involved. So we had the first initial meeting up there, where at each table they had someone from the community. They had a current student athlete, a former student athlete. And I think they're really just in the beginning phases of learning how to do that better. So I'm sure anyone who's listening or wants to be involved or learn more about that, reach out to them to find out opportunities to grow that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was thinking it earlier when you were talking about just women's sports in general and kind of growing up with not having a lot of athletes to see on TV. I think it is cool now. Like, we as a sports industry are making a lot of strides as far as like women's sports goes. Even this morning, like I look at ESPN, like one of the first things I look at when I wake up in the morning, just to make sure I'm current. And I saw, unfortunately, it wasn't good news. The women's lost to Mexico and in soccer, but I'm like, hey, that's cool though, right? That's like right there on the front page. It's not like buried in the 23rd page as far as like headlines go. You see all kinds, WNBA, and just like in general, women's sports is, it's not just like an afterthought anymore. It's part of the conversation. I think that's cool in general.
Yes. Yeah. Because all the athletes growing up, they have daughters now, or like so many people have daughters. And so they get to be a part of it and get to be a part of growing that idea of female athletes as well. So it's been fun to see that grow ever since I was a kid up until now. It's pretty exciting to see where that's going to go.
Yeah, my son plays baseball. My daughter plays soccer. I didn't know anything about soccer. I ain't gonna lie. I'm still trying to figure it out for like a decade, but I'm getting better at understanding the rules and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I love watching her play, and I love watching her teammates. She actually made the varsity team as an 8th grader. So we just found. I don't think I told that.
No, you didn't say.
Yeah. So, anyways, those were kind of cool. I mean, she's really tall. I'm 6'2". She's probably like 5'11", 10-ish. So she's only 13, so she's pretty tall.
Wow.
Easy.
Yeah.
Speaking of teenagers, so Jen, do you have any clients that are much younger than your 89-year-old?
Yeah. You're like high school, college. Like, are you working with any non-85-year-olds? Although I love those stories.
Yeah, currently I'm not. I had some figure skaters, and was working with some college athletes, but currently I'm just all on Zoom. But, now that I'm local, if there are any teenagers, I would love to start coaching them. I think that's phenomenal to just be able to work on the mindset and the physical aspect. I'm here to help in any way people need me.
So real quick, you touched on mindset there. Talk about that. We always talk about like how important mental strength is. And I mean, you touched on even like veterans, talking about transition there, like in fitness in general. I mean, a lot of people think it's just like working out, but a lot of it is mental. Talk about just kind of like the importance of mental health and mental strength.
Yeah. I mean, one, just being able to move and have that commitment in your life daily, it's only going to help your mental capacity throughout the day. You're burning calories, you're just getting oxygen, and it's just something you need to do every single day. But you also need to challenge yourself mentally and physically. So I'm constantly, putting workouts together, and it's not a generic workout where they're always just going to show up and it's always going to be the same. As a matter of fact, especially with the athletes, I help them identify their weaknesses, because we're only as strong as our weakest link. So I constantly put myself in situations, in my whole life, anytime I thought something was tough, like out of all the sports, I was like, volleyball would be the toughest. Let me go play that, right? So you have to constantly put yourself in those situations, but sometimes you need someone to help you do that. So I feel like for my clients, whether it's balance with someone, who might be losing their balance, or someone coming off an injury, or certain athletes, I would have them go through, and, I have some of the football players do some rock climbing, right? Or I'd have, different sports do some yoga because they were more strength-based. And so I think it's really important to be well-rounded and to have someone help you find those weaknesses every day and push past them, because that's probably what was fun for them, even when they were younger, and maybe something they're craving, instead of just staying with that plateau, in that easy spot. Why don't we push to some new levels? And that's what Ninja Warrior did for me. It showed me, how I wasn't really that great of an athlete, right? Like there was so much more I had to learn in the world, that it was extremely humbling. And so, but that's where all the good stuff happens, is when you're challenging yourself and helping others to level up.
I mean, Jen, love your mindset. Obviously, your book goes into that quite extensively. One of the things I love about the way you describe obstacles or challenges, right? The word before that is beautiful, like beautiful challenge, beautiful obstacle. I mean, that alone just sets it sets in the mind of the listener, exactly where they need to go if they're not already there, right? And what I love to do is, with any guest we have, is match you or your book or your ideas with titles from my book. And in one of the titles in chapter 3 in my book was "No Pain, No Pain," because most people want to bypass pain. What you're talking about is actually getting
take it head on, and look at it with a positive kind of mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, which is, of course, why you're sitting there having success you're having. I mean, the fact that you're going to be able to turn that over to other youth and get into a mentoring or coaching aspect, I mean, I think it's tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're helping everybody from 8 to 88. I love it.
Yeah, but you surround yourself with those people every day, and I think that's what we need to do. We need to have that positive group of people around us to help us see that and to do that.
Yeah.
more people we can help and impact, the better. So the more we get out there and talk to people and share that, we're only helping the community. You're so philanthropic in reaching out and making people better, that I'm honored, because that's what you're doing for me right now, is just being able to lift up my spirit and get out there and push me to get out there more and help more people. So I appreciate the opportunity and what you're doing for me today. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to do with this show, is just kind of leave breadcrumbs for people to just pick up and learn something from each show. And I know every time we do one of these, we learn a lot, and we got a lot from you today. So yeah, we really appreciate you being on the show. And so if they want to, just one more time, if they want to get you, they can go to your personal website, and it's just your name, first name, last name.com, right? Super easy.
JenBurdis.com.
Okay, cool. And then you can get the book on Amazon and or your website. I know I'm picking one up today.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Can't believe I hadn't read. So I'm trying to read 50 books this year. I've just finished 8. I just finished my 8th book. So I did 100 in 1 year, but I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. I'm trying to do 50 this year. So I'm going to add yours to the list. EduNinja
Mindset.
EduNinja Mindset.
Okay. Well, you know what? I too will read. I don't know if I'll get to 50, but I'm going to say it out loud now, because your goals are only as good as you saying them out loud in front of other people. But I too will start, DJ, I'll start with your book, and I'm going to go from there. I'm going to commit to, let's just say 10 for now, till the next time.
I mean, in all fairness, you're doing 7 workouts a day. So, you know, crushing waffles and 7,000 calories. All right, look, we need to do another one of these next year, and hopefully I'll we look a little bit more fit.
Oh, we're so sweet.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being with us today, Jen. We really appreciate it. It was an awesome interview. You're amazing, and we appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day.
You too.
Bye.